in 1998, I was in high school at this point, and the rumors had started about Jamie Lee Curtis. I'd heard rumors that Jamie Lee Curtis was going to come back for, the 20th anniversary of Halloween, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. Is Carpenter going to come back? You know what I mean? What, are they going to do something great? He did not, but they did a bigger budget 20th anniversary film called H2O. Water. It's Halloween, 20 years later, 20th anniversary. Halloween 7, but they called it H2O. I don't know, water. I don't know, doesn't matter. The important thing is Jamie Lee Curtis was back, and they did a bit of a retcon at this point. So this movie takes place. This movie is a direct sequel to Halloween 2. So you had the original Halloween, Halloween 2, and then 20 years goes by, and now you have H2O. So Halloween's 4, 5, and 6 in this timeline never happened. That's what the studio was saying anyway. Like, imagine if those other sequels didn't happen. Well, I understood that at that age, and I could grasp that concept. Like, okay, I get it. So pretend, all that shit didn't happen, and here we go. We're starting like a new slate. So Jamie Lee Curtis is the head mistress at a fancy prep school in California. She changed her name. She has a 17-year-old son, and her husband, the father, is not really in the picture. And she struggles daily with, the traumatic events of her past. And she hasn't told anyone about it. Her son knows about it. But, the premise of this is Michael, 20 years later, tracks down, Laurie at this school. And he finds he goes to find the nurse from Halloween 2. Who's an older lady at this point, and breaks into her house and, goes through, I guess, Loomis's files, because she was taking care of Loomis in his final years. How Myers knew any of this, I don't fucking know. There's a lot of stuff you gotta look past in this. I'll get to that. So anyway, he finds out where Laurie is. He goes there. Apparently he drives from Illinois to California in this shitty old shitbox car. And he finds it, Apparently he's good with maps. They didn't have GPS back then, so Michael Myers his way across the country.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock, happy, happy.
But, so no, he makes it there, and, you quickly, you meet, the new cast of characters, and Josh Hartnett played his son. He did a decent job. Michelle Williams, these are all actors that would go on to, be bigger actors and actresses, and Michelle Williams is great. She has a kind of a small part. She doesn't even have too many lines, but Josh Hartnett does a decent job. The best thing about this part of the movie is Jamie Lee Curtis's performance, and it's good. It's believable. I really like the way she dealt with, she deals with the trauma, the everyday anxiety of just being her and being through what she went through. And the way she has a relationship with her son where, he knows everything that happened, and he's just sick of it. He's, tired of being afraid all the time, and, he's tries to convince his mom, Michael Myers is dead. He's, that was 20 years ago. Get over it. And which is understandable. She's super overprotective. Doesn't let him leave the facility. Doesn't let him leave the school grounds. LL Cool J is in it. He plays the security officer, and he's pretty good. He's kind of like a wannabe, like romance. He's like a wannabe romance novel writer. And he talks to his wife or his girlfriend on the phone and reading her the stuff, and it was pretty funny. It's just it's just enough of that it wasn't annoying. Not like Busta Rhymes from the next one. We'll get into that too. But no, LL Cool J was good in this. I liked him. He wasn't too over the top. He was very believable. He's just a decent actor, you know. He acts now still. But no, I liked his character. Ronnie, I think his name was. And but anyway, all the kids in the school are going on this field trip to Yosemite National Park. And, you know, Lori doesn't let, you know, her son go because she's afraid. So he's all bummed. But then, you know, he decides, well, I'll just hang out here with my friends and have like a romantic night with my girl and everything. But then she decides to send him. So he fakes that he left. So she thinks he's gone. Anyway, Michael makes his way into the school and shit starts going down. But there's not many people around though. So it's very, you know, very isolated. But, you know, Lori has like a relationship with like one of the teachers there. And she finally, you know, tells him, you know, her story, and he's blown away by it all. And then she realizes, you know, she was 17 when Myers came after her, and her son just turned 17. So she's like, the bells go off, and she's like, oh shit. And tries to use the phone, and the phone's been cut. And then Ronnie's like, hey, there's a weird car outside, you know, the gate. She's like, fuck. You know, shit's going down. He's here. So there was elements, that kind of stuff I liked. I liked all that stuff. Now this did come out 2 years after Scream. There were a lot of the production of this, the lighting, the mood, the vibe feels like Scream. Doesn't feel like a Halloween film. It doesn't look like a Halloween film. It looks like your standard 90s production. Now I talked about this in the Nightmare on Elm Street thoughts video, and about just the stale cinematography of Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And that came out in 94. So this was 98, you know, 4 years later. And it still had that, kind of stale look to it. At the time, I didn't think so. I saw this movie in theaters. At the time, I liked it. But, you know, it was definitely a product of its day. But anyway, so Myers, you know, he ends up, you know, tracking them all down and tries killing them and everything, and goes after the kids, and a couple of them die, and stabs the son in the leg, and then there's the meeting. There's Lori lets the two kids in the door, closes the door, there's the round window, and there's Myers on one side and Lori on the other. It's the first time they've seen each other in 20 years. Cool shot, cool idea. The mask. The fucking mask. So, we've talked about the mask in all the other films. This film, I think, had a total of possibly 6 to 8 masks from what I've heard. I've heard different numbers. Could be 4, it could be 8, I don't know. But you can tell. You can tell that that every scene looks a little different. There's one that's like a little more detailed. There's one that is more kind of just stock white and looks too new. There's one with like weird hair. Then there's one that has like, I guess, more defined features that are like darker features. And I can't remember all the names. I know Stan Winston made a mask for this. But then there's, of course, the infamous CGI mask, which I didn't notice at the time. But upon rewatching it a few times and watching some documentaries about the making of the film, there is a scene in the kitchen when when he first startles whatever the Gordon, I think his name is, maybe, whatever the young kid that he that he ends up killing and puts him in the dumbwaiter. When the kid turns around and there's Myers, and it's a CGI mask. Early, like 1998 CGI, so it was bad. Apparently they layered it over a mask that they didn't like the look of. They couldn't just reshoot it, apparently not. So it was a bigger production, they had more money, but at the same time, there was like a lot of mistakes, and it's like they didn't care. You know what I mean? Like they're just like, let's just crank this thing out. It's just a slasher movie for kids, you know, fuck it. And you could tell. So this thing had a lot of good things going for it. I watched it again recently. I would have ranked this pretty low a year ago, and I've actually bumped it up. Just mainly due to Jamie Lee Curtis's performance and Josh Hartnett's performance, LL Cool J. His performance, you know, everybody did a good job. They all did as good as as you know, the best they could. I mainly blame the production crew, and maybe they did their best too. I don't know, but I mean, they could have just got one or two decent masks, and they just couldn't. I don't know what the problem was. Apparently, they didn't want it to look too much like Halloween 6 because this didn't follow Halloween 6. Some say it does. Apparently there's some mention of scissors in the opening scene when they're looking around the house, the nurse's house that has all the stuff that's happened over the years. But Jamie Lee Curtis doesn't mention Jamie. There's no mention of the Thorn stuff. None of that shit's mentioned. And I remember when it came out, like, in interviews and everything, the way that, you know, everybody was talking was this was a direct sequel to part 2. So Halloween 1 happened, Halloween 2 happened, 20 years went by, and now we have H2O. So all that stuff aside, the best part of the movie is when Laurie brings the kids to the front gate and tells them to get out, you know, go to the police, get far away, and then she breaks the machine, you know, the door opener, and she stays. You know, she's going after him. And this is her Sarah Connor moment, and she gets an axe, and she's just walking through the, you know, the little streets of the prep school, and she's just yelling for him. She's just looking for him, yelling Michael. And you know, the score picks up, and it's a pretty epic moment. You can feel like the 20 years, you know, in between in those scenes, and she wants to find him, and she's gonna kill him. You know, she's fighting back this time. So that part is pretty cool. You have to get through a lot of shit in the movie to get to that part. I guess they could have cut out a lot of the fat, but you know, they needed to give the kids something. I mean, I was a kid at the time. I was 16, but I wasn't impressed by the teenage bullshit. I wanted this. This is what I wanted. And then basically, yeah, the third act of the movie is just the showdown and them fighting each other, which is pretty cool. I always liked the shot where Michael's holding onto a beam and he kind of lowers himself down. They showed that in the trailer. I thought that was cool. And then there's a fight where they're in like a cafeteria. It's pretty good. And ultimately, she beats him. She does. She sticks him with a flagpole. She stabs him with a bunch of knives. And, you know, she gets hurt too. But and then LL Cool J gets shot earlier in the film by one of the other teacher there, the one she was in a relationship with. And he's thought to be dead, but apparently maybe he only got shot once, or he was just a horrible shot and he fell and hit his head or something. So he was fine. So he stops Laurie from stabbing him a bunch of times. You know, he gets hurt pretty bad. Michael gets hurt pretty bad. But anyway, so the police show up and everybody's fine, and Michael gets zipped up in a body bag, and she's just not having it. Jamie Lee Curtis, no, I don't think so. I've seen this before. So she grabs a gun from one of the officers, hijacks the ambulance, They put him in, and she drives off with him in the back. Of course, he sits up in the body bag and tries to get out, and he's got the mask on, and she slams on the brakes. He goes to the windshield, and then she hits him with the ambulance. They roll down a hill. They're both, well, she's thrown from the vehicle, and then the ambulance lands and pins Michael up against a tree. She goes down, has a little moment with him, and he's just acting, like he's in pain or whatever, help me kind of thing. And then she almost falls for it, but then she's like, fuck this, happy Halloween, and then cuts his head off. Just Highlander style. There can be only one. But, so yeah, she just slices his head off. Boom. And then the movie ends. And it plays, as soon as the head rolls, you hear the sound effects and the score from the original 78 Halloween. The whole rest of the movie, it was a newer orchestrated, with strings and everything, and it was blown up to be like, they're trying to make it grand and epic, but I was glad at the end, though, they just played the original theme with the original sounds, and it sounded really good. So upon seeing this, I thought, okay, well, that's it. She killed him. It's done. 20 years, that's it, H2O, 20 years later, and she's completed the story, and it's over. Okay, cool ending. I get it. No, that is not where the story ends. So, that is not where the story ends. In 2002, we have this piece of shit. Halloween Resurrection. What a disappointing film. I saw this in the theater as well. And I remember thinking, oh man, Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back again and Michael's still alive? What the hell, what's going on here? And, Busta Rhymes was going to be in this. And you know what? I think I liked Busta Rhymes at the time. I knew him from the Pimp My Ride, I think. Yeah, he was doing that show. And, he was pretty funny. I was like, okay. This was like an MTV version of Halloween. So it starts with Laurie in a mental institution, and she's all freaked out because apparently they recap the end of H2O, and apparently it was not Michael that she cut the head off of. Somehow, among all the commotion, Michael had somehow gotten alone with one paramedic, crushed his larynx, taken his mask off, put it on the paramedic, switched clothes, and they took the paramedic out with the jumpsuit on and the mask. And so it's the paramedic that she actually cut the head off of. And the reason he was not saying anything at the end and waving his hands and is because he couldn't speak. Doesn't show why he didn't try to take the mask off, though. He does do this, but why didn't he just take the mask off? He could have done it in the ambulance, and he could have done it after. But anyway, so it wasn't Michael. It was just a paramedic. So she was, arrested and put in an institution. So Laurie's story kind of goes south. There's no mention of John, the kid. There's no Ronnie, no LL Cool J, unfortunately. So this movie starts with Michael tracking Laurie down at this institution. This is 3 years later? I think that's what I remember hearing in the movie. It takes place 3 years later. And apparently he waits 3 years to go find her. I don't know. Whatever. So it's kind of a lot of exposition in the beginning, and he breaks into a room and goes to kill her. She's not there. And, she hits him with a lamp. Yeah, she hits him with a lamp. And he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you," you know. And then they run up to the roof, and she's set a trap for him. It's like a lasso trap, you know. She's got a rope on a, you know, with a pulley and a button, and grabs his leg and flips him upside down, and she's hanging him over the edge of the building. I got you now, you know, kind of thing. And he starts doing some similar stuff like he did at the end of H2O, like shaking his head and going like this. And then she starts to doubt herself. She's like, I gotta know before I kill the wrong person again. And so she kind of inches close to him to try to take the mask off. And like, she's gonna know, like, she's gonna recognize his face. I mean, she saw him in the dark once, 20 years ago. So I thought this was kind of stupid. Anyway, he grabs her, pulls her over the side, stabs her. That's the end of Laurie Strode. He lets her go. She falls. Laurie Strode's dead. Jamie Lee Curtis is dead. The only reason Jamie Lee Curtis came back for this film was if she died. The agreement was she had to die because she was sick of it. She was sick of being asked to come back, so she wanted to be killed off so she would never have to be asked again. They said, sounds good, we'll do it in the opening scene. So yeah, so 10 minutes into the film, Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode is dead. And then Michael's like, well, what do I do now? Fuck it, I guess I'll go home. With his new white mask on, by the way, because he got rid of it at the end of H2O, but he just got another one. This is the really detailed looking one, and it looks like kind of like shit, but it looks okay in certain light, but for the most part it looks shitty, I think. It looks like he's wearing makeup. Yeah, but anyway, so he makes his way home. Meanwhile, our pal Busta Rhymes is doing a reality show. And it's going to be, you know, because the internet is new, reality TV is new, and this movie really dates itself. It's a product, 100% a product of the time. This is an MTV Halloween movie. They got even one of the kids from like American Pie in it, and it's just, you know, it's MTV Cool Kid Halloween. And you can tell right from the beginning, like after the opening scene, this was a movie that was pitched to the studio. It had nothing to do with Halloween. This was just, okay, these 6 teenagers, you know, they go in a house and they all have cameras, and there's cameras set up in the house and spooky stuff happens. But then like real bad stuff starts to happen. This was probably a separate movie, and then they're like, why don't we make it a Halloween movie? And to just inject Michael Myers into it. So this, you can tell the script didn't start as a Halloween script. They basically just had an idea for a, you know, slasher movie, and used the Halloween IP and attached it to it, because Halloween has a built-in fan base. So they basically tricked Halloween fans into coming to see this piece of shit movie that was nothing like what they wanted. So I'm not going to talk about this one that long. All the teens go to the house. They go to the Myers house, which is not even the real Myers house. It doesn't even look like the same thing on the inside. Everything's got cameras everywhere. Oh, Rick Rosenthal came back to direct, who made part 2. That was what I thought. Okay, maybe it's going to be good. No, didn't help. So they all go there. You know, the kids get to the house, and they all get the cameras on, and Myers just starts killing them off one by one, and they bumble around the house for a while. And Busta Rhymes, oh Jesus, I like the guy in Pimp My Ride, and he seems like a cool guy, but I feel like he wrote his own dialogue. I felt like if they gave him something, he was like, what if I do this instead? It's so bad. I don't even think he's necessarily a bad actor, but the shit that comes out of his mouth, it's like, who would write that? And there are certain parts where it's like the editor could have saved the day, where he says something, okay, cut, move to the other actor or actress, and see, cut away. And instead, they would hold the camera on him, and you could see he was just improvising and like trying to be funny. He would say like his line and then say something trying to be funny. So basically it'd be Busta Rhymes would say a line and then try to improvise something funny. Say a line, improvise something funny. A line, improvise something funny. And it just got so old, and it's cringeworthy. And it just completely pulls you out of the movie. And they do the number one thing you don't want to do in a horror film, especially when dealing with a classic horror icon. They make fun of the killer. If you make fun of Freddy, if you make fun of Jason, if you make fun of Michael, it ruins the film. You don't make fun of the evil. You don't make fun of the danger. They did that in Freddy vs. Jason, and it didn't make the scenes cool, especially in retrospect. It made them just it really dated the scene, because it used a lot of slang of the day. There was a lot of attitude of the day, and it just ends up making the scene just look really stupid. So Busta Rhymes mouthing off to Michael Myers just did not come off cool. It just came off stupid. And his most quotable lines from this movie are "Trick or treat, motherfucker." I think that's a big one. And then something along the lines of, "Come on, Michael, whoa!" Yeah, he does that. He basically gets in a karate fight with Busta Rhymes, and it's just fucking bad. The mask looks better than some, but it looks like it has got makeup on. It drags quite a bit. The story it doesn't even matter. There is no fucking story. It's just teens in a house on a shitty reality show, and it seems like half the time a lot of the actors are improvising to try to, make a funny joke of the day. It's very stylized, and it tries to be too hip. So this movie ends with Busta Rhymes fighting Michael Myers in the garage, and it gets set on fire, and Michael Myers gets electrocuted while Busta Rhymes does a karate kick into him. It's stupid. And then he lives, and then at the end, Busta Rhymes is a changed man, and there's more important things to life than being famous. So that's his arc. At the beginning, he thinks everybody wants to be famous. At the end, he's like, there's more important things than being famous. Okay. And then at the end, though, when Michael has gone in for his autopsy, his eyes open, and, he'll be back. But guess what? No, he won't. That is the end of the H2O timeline, the end of the water timeline. So I talked about the Thorn trilogy and all that stuff. That was its own thing. This timeline is the original Halloween, H2O, and Resurrection. It died there. It died with Busta Rhymes. All right. So that was 2002. For the next few years, Halloween would be in kind of a bit of a limbo. Studio did not know what to do. Do we continue with this? We have the option because he woke up at the end, of course. A few years would go by, and then rumors about a Halloween 9 were starting up. And then came the announcement that the next Halloween movie would not be a sequel. It would actually be a remake. this is when Rob Zombie would come into the fray. He was riding high at this time. He had made House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects. I was somewhat familiar. I had a friend she was into that stuff, and she was just all into the Devil's Rejects. It was a little too out there for me. I watched it and I thought it was kind of cool, but no, I wasn't a huge fan of the crazy graphic gore or anything. But I mean, I knew Rob Zombie, I knew White Zombie. I'm a musician as well, so I was pretty familiar. And I also thought it was cool because Rob Zombie's from Haverhill, Massachusetts, where I'm from Massachusetts, and I live in Massachusetts still. But so I was like, okay, Massachusetts guy's gonna make the next Halloween. That's cool. And he'd proven himself to be a decent director with his other films. So I was looking forward to it. I had heard that Tyler Mane was cast as Michael Myers, who played Sabretooth. I'm like, oh man, that guy's a fucking monster. This should be interesting. And then in 2007, I believe, the film was released. I was actually living in New York City at the time, and there was a specific movie theater I would go to see all my movies, and I remember going to see it, and upon my first watch, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. It was different. The backstory, gave you quite a bit of insight. And then, the years would go on and I'd see it a few more times, and I would hear people talk about it and say it was a masterpiece and say it was better than John Carpenter's Halloween. And I was like, okay, pump your brakes. Pump your brakes. So, no, it's not better than John Carpenter's Halloween. This is what I think about Rob Zombie's Halloween. If John Carpenter's Halloween didn't exist, and this was the only version of Halloween that ever existed, I would probably think, yeah, that movie was pretty good. Yeah, no, that was a pretty cool story. Yeah, no, I like that. And that's it. I wouldn't be talking about it now. No one else, I mean, maybe some people that just like his material, maybe they would. But was it a good Halloween movie? No. I don't think so. I'll say this. Everything I loved about John Carpenter's Halloween was not in his film. The backstory, Michael Myers as a kid, growing up in the broken home, all the therapy sessions. Basically, you learn everything about young Michael Myers. You learn about where he comes from and why he turned out the way he did. And some people are like, yeah, that's what makes it better. Because you know why he became that way. It shows you more. And now you can understand why. And it's like, how does that make it better? You can't answer that question. You can't tell me that. Because it doesn't make it better. It's different. Knowing more doesn't make it better. I'll elaborate on that now. So what made Michael Myers so terrifying in the original was you didn't know. You didn't know why he was doing what he was doing. You didn't know what he was going to do. You didn't know what drove him. You had no fucking clue what he was going to do. You didn't take the ride with him. You took the ride with Laurie in the original Halloween. You knew her. And you knew Loomis. Loomis told people in the film, but he also told you and me, told the viewer, what Michael was capable of. So your imagination runs wild about what could possibly happen. And that's what the original did. That's why the original is still so great to this day. And that's why Michael Myers was terrifying. Because we were told about what he was capable of. In Rob Zombie's film, you take the ride with Michael. You don't see Laurie until more than halfway through. You barely get to know Loomis, and he doesn't have to tell you what Michael Myers is capable of because you've seen it already. You've seen what he can do, but you've seen why. And he's almost, in a fucked up way, he's justified. That's what the movie makes it. The way the movie portrays his actions is it almost makes it seem like he's justified. Oh, this kid picked on him. This kid's a real asshole to him, so he deserves to get beat. Yeah, so seeing the way he was treated, the way the way his stepfather treated him, the way his sister treated him, the way everybody treated him, the kids at school, it almost seems like he was justified and in doing what he was doing. And I feel that's the complete wrong angle to take. For this, I think that's the complete wrong angle to take for this character. So in Rob Zombie's Halloween, you take the ride with Michael. You ride with him. You find out everything about him. And from when he's a child, you almost start to feel bad for him. And you sympathize with him. And what Rob Zombie seemed to do is try to turn him into like a tragic hero. Like you want to root for him. And a lot of people don't like the rape scene in the sanitarium. And I mean, to me, it just seemed like, oh, it's just Rob Zombie doing his thing. I never looked at. I never disliked it because it was a rape scene. I didn't like it because it was that, but I didn't make a big deal about it like other people did. I expect that from Rob Zombie. That's what he does, stuff like that. My main problem with that scene is that scene solidified Rob Zombie turning Michael Myers into a hero. He saves the girl. He saves the girl, kills the guys, and right there, you lose the character of Michael Myers. There's talk about Michael being in the original about the reason. There's a lot of different theories on why he does what he does or why he did what he did. And he was a fictional character, so you can only read into it so much. But a lot of what people say is, it's sexual like repression, or he never learned about sex, or he's confused by it, and it's sexual frustration. It's like the reason he like lashes out. He would have definitely killed all of them in that room, including the girl. So no, I don't like Rob Zombie's take on Halloween and Michael Myers because it's a take. It's not his. It wasn't his to redefine, and maybe he was told to, and maybe he thought it was okay that he went and tried to. But so getting past all the stuff in the beginning, and then moving on to the actual Halloween part of the movie where he's all grown up and he's a monster. He gets his mask back, and he goes after the girls, and kills most of them, and then fights with Laurie and blah blah blah. Loomis goes after him. It's just it's the same story. It was basically that whole remake half. So half of Rob Zombie's Halloween, the first half is backstory, and the second half is virtually a remake. None of what I like about Halloween is in this movie. Nothing. There's no suspense. There's nothing haunting about it. It's vulgar, it's aggressive, and it's nasty, but there's nothing suspenseful about it. There's no mood where like that. What pulled me in, what made me interested in Halloween is not in this film. So there's a thing about Michael Myers that sets him apart from other, slasher icons, and that's the lack of motivation. John Carpenter does this with a lot of his movies, but specifically with the character Michael Myers is you don't know what his motivation is. You don't know why he's doing what he's doing, and that is scary. The more you know, the less scary it is. What's scary is the unknown, and they don't explain anything in the first one. They don't explain why he's doing what he's doing. And when I get into the 2018 Halloween, we'll talk about this again from a different angle. But Rob Zombie removed all the mystery. He removed everything scary about Michael Myers, and he gave him all the motivation in the world to be a psychopath. Was he intimidating? Sure. Was he tough? Was he strong? Was he like, would I want to run into that guy in an alley? No, fuck no. He'd kill me. But was I scared watching the movie? Did I find him frightening? No. No, I wanted him, I wished him well. And that's the mistake Rob Zombie made, is he made you like Michael Myers. He made him into a tragic hero where you were rooting for him. Because he'd been wronged so bad. This isn't Rocky. You know what I mean? He's not, he's not a up and coming slasher and trying to prove himself. And it's, Rob Zombie being like a horror kid and a horror music guy, grew up with his friends thinking, oh, Halloween's cool, Michael Myers is cool. You can't make the villain be something to aspire to be. Michael Myers isn't cool. Michael Myers shouldn't be cool. He should be fucking terrifying. You should be afraid of him. And that's what Rob Zombie's Halloween did not accomplish. The movie was not scary. If this wasn't a Halloween movie, if John Carpenter's Halloween had not existed, I'd probably say this was a decent movie, like I said earlier. Was it shot well? Yeah, it was shot pretty well. Was the music good? It was okay. Did he craft a decent story? He did. It was fairly well put together. But I wouldn't like this movie if it wasn't under the IP of Halloween. And that's the kind of thing that makes me mad, is when somebody takes something that has a built-in fan base and is like, well, I'm going to do this with it. And they do their own thing with it. And they tell you you're going to get this, but then you get that. That's honestly what I didn't like about Michael Bay's Transformers. I think that's a fairly good example. I grew up being a huge fan of Transformers as a kid, and then his movies were fucking awful. It was Transformers, He took, a property with a built-in fan base and made shit movies to, because you'll go see them because you like Transformers. But this isn't Transformers, though. This is just some shitty Michael Bay movies with the Transformers name on it. That's ultimately what Rob Zombie's Halloween is. It's better than Michael Bay's films, I'll give him that. But, I think it falls in line with the rest of his films. If he'd called this movie, The Night He Came Home, and just called it that, and it, and changed the direct details of Halloween, maybe it would just be a better movie on its own. But it's not. It is. You have to count it for what it is. It's a Halloween film. So no, I don't think it's a masterpiece. I think it's all the best parts of the movie are just rehashed from the original, and all the vulgar white trash, swearing, foul language stuff is just Rob Zombie being Rob Zombie, just doing his thing, and it didn't add anything. And the biggest mistake he made was making you take the ride with Michael and understanding everything about him and removing the mystery that makes him scary. Jack Nicholson's Joker is funny. Would you call Jack Nicholson's Joker scary? I wouldn't. Would you call Heath Ledger's Joker scary? At times. At times. They don't show you how Heath Ledger, they don't show you how that character became the Joker. And that is by design. He just is the Joker. You don't know what he's going to do. You don't know how he got that way. And he tells you, though, he makes up little stories, but he changes it. He's lying. He just changes the story every time. Heath Ledger's Joker is great because you don't know the motivation behind it. You don't know what exactly drives him. You don't know how he became that way. And he exists as an absolute. And that makes him terrifying, which is what they were going for with The Dark Knight. It was the smartest thing they did, is not give him an origin story. And they never should. The more you explain, the more you understand, and the more chances you have to sympathize with someone who is supposed to be terrifying. So in the case of Michael Myers, you spent too much of the movie getting to know him, and you didn't get to know the girls. So when it came time for them to die, it was like, oh well, I guess this is happening now. And that's that. Which then brings us to Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. I remember reading he didn't even want to do a part 2. And I didn't want him to either. So that made 2 of us. He did, anyway. And I saw the preview and I thought, oh, maybe, I guess it looks okay. It kind of looks like the first one. Of course I was going to get around to see it. I don't think I went to the theater. I don't think I did. I probably just saw it on DVD. And a friend of mine who thought the first one was a masterpiece bought it right away, and that's probably how I saw it. It sucked. It's terrible. Some people like that, Rob Zombie did his own thing with it and made it, his own original kind of thing, and some people give him a lot of credit for that. But once again, he's taken something with a built-in fan base and made his own fucking movie with it that has nothing to do with it, and labeled it Halloween, and is bringing us to the theater to see his new movie that in no shape or form resembles what we want from this franchise, or what we like about it. And I think that's I understand the whole thing about being a fan and oh, that's not what I want. Well, you get what the filmmaker makes. That's what you get. I understand that. I think at this point, though, it's, even if you don't go in with expectations of what you want, there's the things you like about Halloween, right? And if they're not there in the film, then you're not gonna like it. So same thing with part 2. I thought part 2 was even worse. The edgy teens and just the everybody's the same in his movies. It's almost like Rob Zombie's films are his fantasy world. They're his dream world. It's how he wishes reality was like. He wishes everybody was into the Misfits. I like the Misfits, but he wishes everybody was into goth and everybody acted a certain way and dressed a certain way, and all the bad guys were just redneck dickhead Hicks and a big, strong, crazy psychopath would come along and fuck him up. It's like a twisted fantasy, and I'm not into it. I'm not into it at all. So yeah, I'm not even gonna talk about part 2 that much. I thought it sucked. I thought the ending didn't really make sense. Someone might be able to, debate me on this and say, well, the ending means this and the white horse and blah, blah. Okay, I'll listen to you, but I fucking hated it. I thought it sucked. So yeah, so I'm not even gonna talk about that one that much at all. Now, I will say this. Tyler Mane, I thought did as good a job as he could as Michael Myers in both films. And the mask was good. Best mask since the original. Well, since part 2. Yeah, I liked the Michael Myers mask. I thought it was stupid when he wore it as a kid and the Halloween theme played. I didn't like that. I didn't like the use of the music there. The Kiss tune, God of Thunder, I thought that was cool. But that was another thing. Like, Rob Zombie's got like a hard-on for Kiss in the 70s and stuff like that. And clearly, if this takes place in modern day, when Michael's older, then I think he's got the timeline wrong with some stuff. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, because when did it come out? 2007? So, 10 years, 97. So yeah, it was the early 90s when, because I think he says he waited 15 years. I think he did the same thing. So would that place the beginning of the movie in the early 90s? It didn't look like the early 90s. He depicted it as if it was the 70s. So I don't know, maybe I'll have to check that out again. But anyway, both these movies are on the bottom of my list, but The Mask is cool, that's all. Okay, so once again, the Halloween franchise would lie dormant for a while. Until 2018, we have the 2018 soft reboot titled Halloween. So this movie I was pretty excited for a number of reasons. I had heard that they brought John Carpenter back into the fray, and they were looking to do a direct sequel to the original Halloween. Now, I wasn't sure at first if they were going to connect it to part 2, but it seemed like everything I'd read was just saying it connects just with part 1. And then I hear Jamie Lee Curtis is coming back, and then I see the first picture of the mask, and by far, this is the best mask since the first and second movie. Since part 2, this is the best mask. It's aged. I mean, in reality, the mask could probably be melted because I've seen old rubber latex masks. I had a Halloween latex mask, and in 10 years, it was toast. Never mind 40 years. I mean, I guess if it was in a, containment, cell, weather controlled for the last 40 years with the FBI or something, then maybe it would hold up a little bit more, but rubber and latex doesn't last that long. It deteriorates. 2018, I was really looking forward to this film, and I thought the trailer looked great. I was pumped. And when I went to see it, I enjoyed it, but for as much as this film gets right, it also gets wrong. I'm gonna try to be brief here. What's good about this movie? The music is great. John Carpenter did the music with his son and his son-in-law, or something like that, or his nephew, or some family members. It was like a family project. And the music's great. They did a nice rework on the original score and brought it into modern day. There's a specific scene when Laurie's granddaughter sees Michael for the first time. They come face to face, and the score just swells and it gets huge, and it's really good. It's not It's not like the lame orchestrated version from H2O where they just tried to make it grand with strings. This was like synthesizers just had a certain sound to it, and it was eerie and it was terrifying. They made Michael terrifying again. So the music was great. The look of Michael Myers was perfect, spot on. I don't think it could have been any better. It was the best since part 2. The guy who played him did a great job. James Jude Courtney, he did a great job. Jamie Lee Curtis was awesome in this. It's kind of like she took aspects from H2O of her performance and used that and then mixed it with like Sarah Connor from Terminator 2. She was badass. She was great. Every scene Jamie Lee Curtis is in, she was great. The look of the film was pretty good. It didn't feel like Carpenter. A couple, you could tell like a few shots were like homage shots, and they recreated some stuff. But the look was decent. So those were the things I liked about it. Everything else was fucked up, I think. Just quick overview. This takes place 40 years after the first film. So you've got Halloween. Then you've got 40 years goes by. Halloween 2018. No Halloween 2, nothing. H2O, none of that stuff happened. This is another separate timeline. This is as if when Loomis shoots Michael Myers and he falls off the balcony that night, they capture him. And he's been in prison ever since. So nothing happened after he fell off the balcony. Halloween 2 didn't happen. He never got out for H2O. Like, none of that shit happened. So that's, going into it, it's understand that. So these podcasters, they go to, see him to find out, how he's doing. And they show him a mask, and it's just kind of a shock scene. I'm not really going to go through what the movie's about. But basically, it's just 40 years later, and Laurie's just been waiting for him to get out. And he finally does. He's on a transfer, he gets out, gets his mask back, same mask, and goes on killing people. Now, as soon as this scene started happening, where Michael is walking through the neighborhoods and the camera's just kind of following him. It's like a tracking shot. It's all one shot. It looked cool. It was very similar to like Halloween 2. It was kind of that was a lot of nostalgia happening there. But I noticed the way he was doing it, he was just killing at random. And he was doing it really fast. Just walking into people's houses, boom, dead. Okay, next house. Dead. Okay, next house. And that set me, that gave me an uneasy feeling, like this is kind of weird. It's not really his MO. So maybe it felt like they were kind of changing the character a little bit. There's a doctor that they introduced, Dr. Sartain, I don't know how to say it. He's an old guy. He's basically like the new Loomis. He's his doctor and everything, and he was on the bus when it crashed, and he got shot, and now he's with the sheriff. And, they're trying to track him down. Laurie finds out he's out. She goes to her daughter's house and, tries to warn her daughter, and Laurie's kind of like an alcoholic, and she's kind of crazy. She's like a crazy grandma. And everybody's like, oh, get over it. It happened 40 years ago. And, but no, not time to get over it, because guess what? Mikey's back. And so everybody starts getting freaked out. And so Laurie's daughter, her age is kind of nondescript. I don't know how old she's supposed to be. But her husband is horribly miscast. I think his name is Ray. He seems older than her, like a decent amount. And I think he's a comedian in real life. And he's just horribly cast. And everything out of his mouth, he's supposed to be comic relief. I don't know if Danny McBride wrote his parts, his dialogue, or he improv, but it was all stupid. You know what I'm talking about. I got peanut butter on my penis. That part. What the fuck was that? I don't know. I'm not saying it again, but that part was shit. As soon as he said that, I was like, okay, I see where the humor is going to be in this. This is bad. Most of the humor was bad. So yeah, so he was miscast. I just don't think he should have been. He was too old for the part. He was too goofy. There's a scene with a father and son, and they're driving and they come upon the bus crash and look like maybe they'd gone hunting or something. And it was just really odd. They spend like too much time with them, and they have like a conversation about how he likes to dance and his dad wants him to hunt or something. And he wants his son to do something more masculine, and he likes to dance. And the father seems like he's probably like 50 or 60. He seems old, and this kid's like 13. And just the ages seemed weird. It seemed like he looked more like his grandfather. And it was just odd casting. I don't know, maybe they just know these people and they were just like, yeah, we'll put you in the movie. But the casting choices were just a bit odd. I know I keep saying that, but there's more. Anyway, both these characters die pretty quick, so it doesn't matter if the kid likes to fucking dance, because they're both dead really quick. It wasn't a character, it was a waste of time. So anyway, yeah, so Michael gets out and he just goes on a killing spree. He starts killing people. And Laurie's granddaughter and her friends and like her boyfriend and stuff, they're going to a Halloween party, of course. And they start following the kids for a while, and it really starts to drag because this movie was advertised as, okay, 40 years later, and Michael's coming back for Laurie, but she's ready. She's like Sarah Connor. She's got the guns and stuff, and she's been training. She's got her house rigged up like Home Alone with all these traps and stuff, and she's like a badass. She's crazy. She drinks a lot, and she's losing it, but she's prepared for when he comes. And that is how they marketed this film, that he is coming for her. Well, you get about halfway through the movie and they haven't interacted yet, and Michael seems to be a bit like he doesn't care. And there's the scene that happens when Laurie sees Michael in the window, and he looks down and does this look like, what's that mean? Like, oh, I remember you? Or, I don't know, this one girl he saw 40 years ago, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, I don't know. She shoots, it's a mirror, he doesn't get hit, and then she kind of chases him through an alley, and I think she does graze him. Maybe she shoots him in the side of the neck or something. But he just kind of wanders off. He gets away and he just wanders through more neighborhoods, and then he comes upon that another teen, the friend of the granddaughter, and he kills him. That scene was pretty cool with the lights flickering on and off, and they come on and he's closer, and they go off and they come on and he's even closer. That part was pretty cool. It was a good visual. The character was stupid, but and then after that, okay, he sees Laurie's granddaughter now, and you gotta wonder, like, does he know? Is there some kind of connection? Because what they did do is they dropped the brother-sister thing. In this movie, Laurie Strode is no longer his sister. So he starts, kind of going after her, but she gets away pretty easy, and then he just wanders off and does his own thing. So this is, the middle of the movie now, and I'm starting to think, like, okay, where is this going? It kind of feels like the story is just kind of coming to a standstill. And the sheriff and the doctor end up finding him. They hit him with the car. They think he's dead. Sheriff goes to check him, and no, the doctor goes to check him, and then the doctor stabs the sheriff in the neck with a pen knife. He has like a trick pen. It's like turns into a knife, like a stabbing weapon of some sort. And you're like, what the hell's going on now? Like the doctor, turns out the doctor purposely unleashed him. The doctor is what made the bus go off course and crash. The doctor wanted to see Michael in the wild. He wanted to see him in action. So Michael's still unconscious. The doctor puts the mask on because, I don't know, he wants to feel the power and the exhilaration of killing. And then he puts Michael in the cop car. I think they picked up Laurie's grandson by this point. I mean, no, they picked up Laurie's granddaughter by this point. So Michael's in the back of the car with the granddaughter, and Sartain takes the mask off, throws it in the back seat, and just drives off. And they establish at this point that Michael has no motivation. He simply kills. He's simply driven to kill. He's not doing it for a reason. He doesn't necessarily have any hatred. He's just compelled to kill. So what the filmmakers did here is, I think they completely misunderstood the lack of motivation being scary theory. So like I said before, the original Halloween is scary because you don't know why he's doing what he's doing. There is a lack of motivation, but it does exist. You just don't know what it is. Rob Zombie's Halloween, they explain it. He becomes not scary anymore because you sympathize with him. Halloween 2018, they reveal he has no motivation. He simply kills. That's not scary at all. That's just stupid. That's just dumb. He just kills. Okay? So it's basically like, I don't know, if you had a laser gun and you locked the trigger down and spun it around, and it would just kill everything in its path. That's what Michael Myers is? That's not interesting at all. That's not terrifying. That's just a death machine spinning around. It's stupid. So the doctor drives Michael and the granddaughter to Laurie's house. And then we quickly get rid of the doctor. Michael wakes up, gets his mask back, crushes the doctor's skull, and then just wanders, and then sees the commotion at the house, and then just wanders over there. He never goes to actually find Laurie. He doesn't remember her. And he's not looking for her. There is a line in the movie where Laurie says, he's been waiting for me. And that's how they advertise it in the trailers as well. Final showdown. He's been waiting this long and now he's come for me. Not true at all. If Laurie hadn't intervened, if the doctor hadn't intervened, he would have just stayed in the asylum. If the doctor hadn't driven Michael to Laurie's house, he wouldn't have gone after her. He basically pointed Michael in the direction of Laurie to see what the reaction would be. And you know what? It's the same fucking reaction as anybody. Laurie becomes insignificant. The granddaughter is insignificant. Everybody's insignificant in this movie. Nobody actually has to do anything. He's just walking around killing. So it removes a lot of that tension, that buildup. So the final fight, is kind of thrilling and all because, yeah, he's chasing Laurie now. And he's in the house, and they do some reverse shots from the original where he falls off the balcony in the original, or Laurie falls off here, and he looks down and she's gone. Stuff like that. They trap Michael in the basement, and they light it on fire, and then they burn the house down. One cool moment is when the daughter is saying, you know, she's crying, she can't do it, and she's got a gun, she's aiming it at him. Then Michael steps in front of her and she's like, gotcha. You know, she's faking it to get him to come out. And that was a cool moment, but for a character who wasn't really developed that well at all. And Michael wasn't going after them. He wasn't coming for them. So yeah, this movie could have been a lot more. It could have been really something special. But instead, they made a movie that looked like the movie that everybody wanted. And some people really love this movie. And I think, honestly, if you do, I don't think you've thought about all these things. I can't look past them. They basically removed all the stuff that gives the Laurie Michael relationship any weight. They removed the brother-sister angle. He doesn't care who he kills. He's not after her. He never even went after her. He was aimed in her direction. So Laurie is in this fight alone in her mind that he's coming for her, because he never was. He didn't even give a shit. So yeah. So that's, you know, what I think of that film. It looked, you know, the look of it was good. You know, good music. The actor that played Michael Myers was good mask and everything. Is it enjoyable? Yeah, it is, but it removes so much of what made it great. Am I looking forward to the next one? Yeah. I'm looking forward to see what they do. Do I have my hopes up? No. You know, we'll just see where it goes from here. Hopefully they pull a lot of the stupid humor out of it. I mean, the kid that, you know, the friend was babysitting, you know, he was funny. But the scene ultimately was kind of useless. That whole sequence was kind of useless. It wasn't really all that scary. It was just comic relief. But yeah, so that's, you know, that's the final film. That's as far as we've come. So from worst to best, I would say in last place we have Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Piece of shit. In 10th place we have Halloween Resurrection. It's not a Halloween movie. It's another movie that was just pitched, and they stuck Michael Myers in there. Next, 9th would be Halloween 5. I recently watched this. I watched this yesterday. And this originally was higher up on my list. But after watching it yesterday, it's really boring. Next would be Rob Zombie's Halloween, the first one. Decent movie on its own. But as a Halloween film, there's nothing in this movie that I like. Next would be Halloween 6. Some of the acting is a little weird, but you know, it holds up a little better than some of the other ones. Next would be, so number 6 would be Halloween 2018. This is kind of right in the middle. Like I said, there's a lot of things that were good about it, but there was just as many things that were bad. Next would be Halloween 4. So it's kind of a cult favorite, you know, it's a fan favorite. I like the movie. So number 4 would be Halloween H2O. If I had made this review about a year ago, this would be a lot lower on the list, but number 3 would be Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. No Myers. Didn't need him. Number 2, Halloween 2. The original Halloween 2. I think this movie's great. And of course, number 1, John Carpenter's Halloween. It's perfect. So one thing I am going to do is I'm going to throw up a graphic kind of come up with a couple of names to make this make sense. So you've got, we'll call this the Halloween Prime timeline. So this consists of Halloween, the original, and Halloween 2. So this is in white. That's it. That's where the story ends for the Halloween Prime timeline. I guess you could include Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, but Michael Myers doesn't even exist in that reality. It's a movie. And then you've got the Thorn timeline, which is Halloween 1, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Halloween 4. Now, this is the return of Michael Myers. And this is where they start to introduce the psychic connection of Jamie, his niece. So Halloween 4 to 5 to 6. So Halloween's 1 through 6, you could consider that the Thorn, timeline. Halloween 4, 5, and 6 being the Thorn trilogy. So you've got the original Halloween, you've got Halloween 2, and then they branched off to do Halloween H2O 20 years later. So this is the H2O timeline. So this is acting as if 4, 5, and 6 never existed. Just Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and then H2O. And then Halloween Resurrection, one of the worst, follows H2O. And then that ended. And then in 2018, they introduced Halloween 2018, which is a direct sequel to the first Halloween. So you have the first Halloween, and then that branches off to 2018 sequel, and then whatever follows that. That's the 2018 timeline. So those are the kind of the murky, confusing timelines of the series. And I guess you've got Rob Zombie's as well. It's just basically his remake and then his sequel. Yeah, there's a lot of little inconsistencies, and you can pick the films apart. But when it really comes down to it, there's no point if you're just looking to enjoy them. I have enjoyed watching all these movies at one time or another. After revisiting some over the past couple of years, there are some I will just not watch again. So if you like this video, check out my Friday the 13th thoughts video and my Nightmare on Elm Street thoughts video as well. Click like and subscribe. I'm the Film Hack Dude. Happy Halloween. Be safe out there.